But
Is that too loud?
The room is muted.
How's that? Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we do have is this a discussion item, Amy? The review ordinance amendment, chapter 14077?
Yes, we had a public hearing last week and we did not discuss it.
Okay, so that's what we are going to discuss.
Madam Chair, is that Greg on there?
No,
Okay.
no.
What?
She's gonna be here. She's not here yet.
So, do you guys, you were both here at the last meeting when we had, when we talked about the site plan review process and sending out notices to abutters. Do either of you have comments from that conversation that we had with town residents regarding that requirement? The one thing that I came away with feeling was that I do think it's appropriate that if one of the abutters is part of an HOA, that the HOA, whether it be president, also be written a letter to notify the community of the HOA.
Yeah, it seemed that the main issue, I guess, from anybody potentially abutting would be just fearing that they would be informed like too late in the process, where they would try to like voice something and it wouldn't, it'd be like too far down the road and they wouldn't get in early enough. So I could understand those concerns, but the HOA thing makes sense. You know, you can't, the whole organization should be notified.
Yeah, we had this whole, we had this discussion when our last chair was here, Bill. And it was this kind of back and forth. We were like, it's a great idea. We really want abutters to be notified. But we were worried that it was gonna have people come too early.
Mhm.
And then it was gonna be more difficult. But I think as long as we keep it in, once we have the big things kind of ironed out, giving people the opportunity, but definitely allowing people to be a part, or to at least hear the conversation and what's going on from the beginning is a good way to go. Brunel, any comments?
It's about notifying people. I had my notes here, trying to find them, but if we're permitted, I would like and if you could give them a little more warning, at least 2 weeks on stuff. I think at one place it says 10 days, and another place it says. But anyway, I would like to see a
Okay.
little more time.
So 2
Give it
weeks
to-
from the first meeting?
No, 2 weeks notification of when hearing will be. And there's a
Oh,
public
okay.
hearing, there's a notice that's given out, then there's another notification that's given to people affected, and I think that's 10 days or something like that. And I'd like to see those extended.
So I
if
will tell you,
possible,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. I will tell you that probably the most difficult part of that is, say we make a decision at a meeting. And then we have to give 14 days, we're gonna have to push off a month. Because they wouldn't be able to come at the next meeting, because that wouldn't be a 14 days notice. I mean, the 10 days gives then Amy a chance to get everything sent out in an appropriate amount of time, so that we can still meet the deadline, but they can still be in front of us at the next meeting, and not have to push it out. So I hear the reasoning. I just worry that it will prolong people's business. Does that make sense? A little bit too far, because we only meet twice a month. That's what I worry about.
I understand. It would ratchet at one, okay, a 2-week period, okay, and if we hit the next one, I understand that. But I think there's both a courtesy and a practical reply, you know, that something's not dropped in their lap, okay? Real quick, I understand it has to be certified mail and stuff like that, but say they're not home for a while, something like that.
Would you say that you feel that way about everything, or just public hearings?
There's another item there, and like I said, trying to find my.
Oh,
notes
take a
here.
minute,
So,
take a minute.
Yeah. Yes, it was, that was one of them, public hearing. Do you have a copy there?
This one is, probably have it. Oh, the paper. So much of it.
I'm about to help you with that.
Well, misplaced it.
Can I ask a question?
Go, sure.
So is your concern the initial notification, or is your concern just the notification for the public hearing?
One of them is definitely the notification of public hearing. And then I think on the front page of the ordinance of the procedure there, there's another timeline given. And I
So the
forget
timeline-
exact title of that one. And I was wondering whether that could be extended also.
The timeline for right now, the process is they come to us, they send us their information, and they submit it by the submission date. They come in front of us with their initial. That at that moment, if they're gonna be moving forward and they plan to move forward, we ask that they do. That's what this amendment, what we're talking about right now, that we had a public hearing on. Where we had no discussion, everybody seemed to be okay with it, but from that process, the abutters, we're asking the applicant to let the abutters know. They may not be back in front of us in 2 weeks. They might take another 2 more meetings. They're given 2 weeks to send out the abutters, notification to the abutters. They're not given 10 days or 2, they have 2 weeks. So if they're gonna be coming back, they're gonna do it right away. If they're not coming back in front of us because they're not ready, then they can push it out another 2 weeks. That's up to the applicant as to whether or not they're coming back or not. We can't guarantee they'll be back at our next meeting. If they're ready, that's great. But that's new for us. That's what this public hearing was about. That's new language in our ordinance.
So prior, it was only required that abutters be notified before the public hearing. And so what we did was, we said, actually, we think that people should be notified from the beginning of the process when they submit the sketch plan application.
Yeah.
So it
That's
could, there's several meetings from the time they're notified that a sketch plan application has been submitted to the public hearing. And it's really up until then, it's really at the discretion of the chair of public input to even ask for. So of course, we generally do allow public input, especially or the preliminary stage, at the sketch plan before we even know that it's a feasible project. So people are generally given at least a month before they even be asked to give their input. That makes sense. But I hear you're saying the public hearing. You'd
Yes.
like a 2-week
Yes.
notification.
And there is a 2-week notification. So when the planning board votes to have a public hearing, moving forward, and then we let the applicant know when that public hearing is gonna happen, that's when the next day, they would send out their notices of a public hearing to the abutters. Or we would, depending on whatever the decision is amongst us and the code enforcement office and planning office. So the public hearing, which is almost really almost the last part of the process, we were only notifying abutters then, prior to this change in the amendment. Now we're notifying them a lot earlier. In between
Okay,
those two, we
okay.
do not notify them.
But they already know what's going on because of prior notifications.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so in
Okay, I'm
between
sorry.
the process, it could be 6 months, it could be 9 months. We don't notify anybody there. That's up to them to come to the planning board meeting or to send in the letters to discuss it with the planning department or the code enforcement officer.
Yeah, so I see, so the part about the public hearing, the board shall publish the time, date, and place of the hearing at least 10 days prior to the hearing in the newspaper of the area-wide circulation. So I'm guessing that's probably the point in which.
That's what
you
I'm
would-
referring to, yes, it's one thing.
And then, so the issue with that would be that we ultimately, yes, would be asking applicants to wait a month from the time we can actually set the public hearing.
Public hearing doesn't get set till everything's been taken care of towards the end of the process.
They would have prior
They
notification.
have prior, because of the new language in our ordinance.
Right.
Which is what we're discussing on this right now, that's the subject right now, then yes, they would have prior knowledge.
At this point, none of that's here, hello, welcome.
Good evening.
So now we have our fourth member here, Greg. So I'm gonna say for this part, so Greg, just to update you, we're looking at the agenda item regarding, of course, now I have all my papers out. Regarding the discussion following our public hearing.
Right.
And I was saying that, like for the HOA,
Mhm.
if an abutter is part of an HOA, that the HOA should probably be notified too.
Mhm.
And then, which I believe was agreed upon. But Burnell is saying that he would like there to be a 2-week notification for the public hearing, not 10 days. And I personally, I will say that I personally think 10 days is enough time for the public hearing. But I will entertain a motion either way and figure out which direction.
Joe can maybe help me with this, the town council, when they have a public hearing, they have 2 weeks.
Oh, they do?
A practical perspective, adding 4 days, I don't think is going to, add a significant burden. I think it's reasonable, frankly, I don't really see an issue with it. I think in terms of, I think the concept of posting in a newspaper in general circulation is, at this point, outdated. So I think our bigger issue is how do we get it advertised? And that's probably more of an issue for the town to deal with in terms of your advertising and how you want to do that. Websites are great, Facebook is great, but that's not we don't have control over that. So a 14-day note, we meet every basically 14 days. So for me, I don't see an issue with it.
Yeah, I was just saying that if it's 14 days, then we'd have to push it a month.
Yep.
That's all.
Yeah, and I think that gives people plenty of notice, and I think if it gives people notice, it gives them time to think and plan and come prepared and make a statement. And I think from a public perspective, we have an opportunity, more of an opportunity, if it's a public hearing, that's why we're conducting that. So, us doing business.
Yeah.
So I could go with the 14 days. I'm perfectly fine with that.
You're talking about the public notice or the public meeting?
Yeah.
At that point, okay.
Yeah, that's basically the notification period.
Yeah.
So you have to factor that in, and Betsy's right, it's gonna put it out.
Yeah.
An extra meeting,
Yeah.
essentially.
I'm thinking that the people were being notified. They
Yeah.
have time to get their act together. Okay, so notification of the sketch meeting there. Here it
Of the
says,
public hearing.
no, the sketch meeting now. the
Oh,
first
the
one.
sketch meeting, okay.
Yeah. That I'd like to see a little more time too, because that, again, that's kind of crowded for the people that are budding or whatever, being notified. That's just 7 days. And okay, wow, it's a meeting coming up here again. It's akin to the public meeting notice is what, at least my rationale for thinking it that way.
Okay. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion, either way, one, that we add the notification to an HOA if one of the property abutters is a member. And
Can you
Whether-
just maybe repeat that one, because if an HOA is in the butter, the HOA will be notified.
Correct.
So I
oh, so
don't-
the
I don't-
HOA does get
It's
notified.
automatic.
If
You
it's in
don't
the
need to
butter, it'll
motion.
go
Oh.
to some
Oh,
the
okay
trustee
then.
of the
All right.
HOA. So then that HOA
Okay.
should then notify everybody.
Okay, totally fine then.
I
That's
know there
already-
was some concern last time about, do we want to expand the abutter? I think what was it, 250? There was concern about, do we want to go, not, I shouldn't say, not concern on our end, but it was, folks talked to us about increasing that, you know. Someone said 1,000, I think that's excessive. So I think there was that issue, 250 feet is not much at all. You know, especially using the Meadow Pond issue, you know, that's a big impact. You know, to only notify people within a 250 foot. You know, though the HOA would be notified theoretically, in that
Well,
one, but,
Yeah,
you know, I don't know, maybe when getting too into the details on that, but I agree. The more public notice, the better. So, but the HOA would be
Motion.
notified.
Can I make one comment? I think that the difference of 4 days, I'm not sure what you're looking to gain from that.
More time for the people being notified, butters, et cetera. To, number one, know that there is a meeting. Number two, that they have any preparation they want to make or whatever. Give them more time. It's more of a courtesy thing so that stuff isn't, to say they're not home for a week or whatever.
But
And
but
They're
it
not
can't
home
be
for a week.
notified. Huh?
They're not home for a week.
yeah,
Guess
but
what?
I mean,
I'd
but
like
it's
to
okay.
make-
effectively, though, what you're saying, Bernal, is, you know, why the extra week? Because effectively, if it's a 10-day notification period where we're required to notify the newspaper of general circulation, you only get one weekly newspaper around here. So you're only really getting effectively one advertisement in the paper on a Friday.
Right, I want to make clear though. The first notification to the abutters does not go into the paper. It is only a mailing by the applicant to the abutters after their first sketch plan review. If you decide that that's where it's gonna start. If the abutters are notified, when the abutters are notified, then they don't get notified again until the public hearing.
Right.
When that's voted on, and that's when the. Yeah.
Butter notification is completely separate, and that we're
Correct.
starting that earlier in the process. I think that's a good thing. So they're gonna get notified, the HOA will get notified.
But what Brunel is asking is that someone leaves here on a Wednesday. They hope to come back in 2 weeks to the next meeting. It probably won't realistically, right, Joe? They probably will not be back, because they have to get the abutters list together. If they don't already have it, then that means coming in, and if we have to help them, we will. Let's just use today as an example. We have a new sketch plan in front of us, and everything is going great, they leave. Well, now they need to notify the abutters. But they don't know if they're gonna be back on the 15th of June or the 1st of July when the next meeting is. They're probably not gonna be back until July 1st. Because they have a
Okay.
lot to put together.
okay, so ultimately what we're saying is it doesn't matter then if we do 10 or 14 days.
No.
However, as a board, we have that choice to vote on it. And so now that we've had discussion, I would like a motion on the table as to whether or not we change those or not. And if we agree to the way it's written otherwise.
I move that the time for the sketch approval meeting be changed to 14 days and the time for the public hearing be changed to 14 days.
Do I have a second?
We
Sorry,
take those one at a
it's already
time.
at 14.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do one
I
at a
will
time.
modify that. Motion. I move that the time for the sketch plan meeting be changed from 7 days to 14 days.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So I'd like to
Discussion?
belabor this issue. Yeah, I just want to make sure. The sketch plan comes before us. And then ultimately they ask for approval on the sketch plan in order to continue to move forward. I look at that as simply words matter. It's a semantics issue. I think if they're simply notified that there's something going on, that to me is good on our part, to notify them that something is actually occurring. Now it's up to the residents to keep track on what's going on.
Mhm.
I don't think limiting ourselves on the approval of a sketch plan, because, you know, they'll be notified, they should be notified that they're putting it before the planning board. And how does it work in terms, Amy, of when it goes on the planning board agenda? Is that something that just happens, or is there a process for getting it on the planning
It's a
board?
process. They have to submit their new information
Yeah.
if it's a new project, 2 weeks before the
Yeah.
first meeting, I guess we want to say. They come in on that meeting with their submission, with their sketch plan review. If in fact you vote or you let them know they move forward, everything's great, at that point, they know we tell them. Now with this public hearing, which is what we're discussing, the public hearing we had on the changes to the language, they are then notified by the applicant that the applicant has been in front of the planning board for a sketch plan review and that they are moving forward with a project. It will be however they want to word it. That's up to them.
Yeah, I should tell a little bit about the project. To
So
me,
now-
that would
right.
be sufficient.
And that was what we had changed the language on.
Yeah.
That's all we did. We didn't add a 10-day, 7-day, or
I
14-day.
understand, yeah, we understand. I want to just make sure that that it's really clear what it says. So it says a sketch plan discussion with the planning board will be scheduled according to a submission schedule set by the town. The applicant will be responsible for providing abutting property owners of this ordinance notification of the application proposal. It should be in writing, at a minimum, an overview of the application and sketch plan meeting date, time, and location. So according to this, the notification to the abutters is to be sent out between the time the application is submitted to our office. From that time, not from the time that the sketch plan is being reviewed. And I just want to, again, make clear that at sketch plan approval, the public is only asked input at the discretion of the chair. The public technically is not supposed to be in that part of the conversation. That is supposed to be a conversation that really looks at the broad laws and rules of our ordinance, and if it's even a feasible project. And as a property owner, I do think residents have that right to come in front of us and see if it's actually a feasible project, and keep the conversation short and concise before we start adding in 30+ people who have concerns, legitimate concerns, but we don't even know if it's gonna get that far. So, I agree that 2 weeks is more than reasonable. I just think that moving it from 10 to 14 days, when it's not 14 days till the time that they can speak, we're just giving them 10 to 14 days for them to be aware that there's gonna be a meeting where we're just gonna hear about the project. We're not gonna prove anything. And there's a recording of it. So if they can't make that meeting, they can certainly go back and watch it, because there probably won't be a chance for them to ask questions anyways. So I agree that the more notice we give, the better, especially when it comes to the public hearing, because that is a date where that is their time to speak and say what they need to say. But when it comes to just an application that's coming before the board, I don't know if it really matters if it's 10 or 14 days, because they're not gonna be able to do anything anyways. And I do think out of respect for the applicant too, we have to at least allow them to get up and present, regardless if all the neighbors can come or not. If that makes sense.
It made sense to me. That's why I wanted to say the 10 to 14 days. I think the mere fact that we're having this new process that never happened before, having the applicant send out a letter to say, hey, I'm submitting a project, you're in a butter, and I hope to go before the planning board. If it were me, you know, I'm gonna be going on looking at the planning board minutes to see when it's coming up, and I would keep track of that. I think that's a positive move there. I think if we do start putting dates and times on this and advertising requirements, which I'm not so sure we're trying to do that. But again, the wording as you read, Betsy, is sufficient for me. But when it comes to the public hearing, I absolutely agree, the formal public hearing, I think we want to extend that time frame. Because again, my hope is, we do need to hear and be somewhat inclusive of the residents here and their concerns. And again, we do have times in the meetings, having been part of that, if they're concerned, there's opportunities where they can speak on that, even if it's not on the agenda, and help inform us with whatever they want to inform us. So the way that's drafted and the way you read it for the sketch plan and the abutter notification, I'm satisfied and I'm happy that they're being notified earlier on in the project, because you get the sketch plan, we may not see these people for another couple of months. And so as long as they're notified, and that's where we've gotten caught in the past, in my view, has been not many people really monitor what's going on, and then you get this notification or something comes out, and based on how the papers roll out, it's basically like 4 days there's a meeting. Then you sit back and wonder, well, where did this come from? And it's been here, no doubt, it's been here, but again, you're not gonna look unless you're made aware. So I think the way that's drafted, I'm perfectly fine with that. The public hearing, I'm not, I wanna go along with what Bernard was saying.
Well, I would agree with that motion if you were to make it.
Sure, so I
There's a
would,
motion on the floor right now.
Oh, okay.
We're still in discussion.
so
Correct.
I'm done with my discussion.
I'm done with discussion. So I'll take a vote on the previous one, which was
To change the 7 to 14.
to change this 7 to 14 days and change the 10 to 14 days for the
We're
public
just doing,
hearing.
we're just
Yeah, we did one
we're
that,
doing one at
One at a time.
a time.
Yeah. We-
So the motion now is to change this 7
7
to
days prior to
14.
noon.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
Everybody agrees that's a motion.
yes.
Did I hear
So,
correctly for the public hearing?
nope,
It's for
7
the-
days for the sketch plan.
Okay,
so it's 7 days right now.
And you'd like, and he's asking for 14. So I'll take a vote. Bill, Cole,
Aye.
Bernal
Aye.
Bailey, Fred
No,
Sensor,
no.
and Betsy Randall, no. So that's a tie, which I believe is a
Motion fails.
motion fail.
So I would. Can I see that, please?
Sure.
That was the red line version.
No.
For public hearing, just like a vote, you have to go through the process.
So
Already
if
done.
Bernal wanted to make a second motion on the public hearing aspect, I would be happy to.
Can I make a comment? I don't think we can actually make a change to our public hearing ordinance language unless we can, don't we have to discuss all that and go through it? I mean, I'm sorry, not discuss it, but
Is it a current ordinance right now?
it's a current ordinance that states 2 weeks. Does it not?
10 days for public hearing.
10 days for public hearing. Okay, and you want a motion to change it to 14?
Yes.
The only one who has the authority to change ordinances here is the town council.
Exactly.
The only
That's
one who
why-
can update or change an ordinance by law is the town council. So it has to go to town council, has to go to a public hearing.
So that what we just voted on, we're now changing, or I'm sorry,
But for the record, we've always been voting on something that we're sending to town council. So we're not.
but now we're gonna have to have we'll need to vote on a public hearing for the vote that you're about to do right now, to go over what we just went over right here, because this was just for chapter 140-77 site plan review process. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
If you're going to change and move on to a different chapter and a different process, then we have to start all from the beginning.
Okay. I understand. However, if that's the vote, I'm not going, I don't want to make that decision as a chair when there has been and kind of an agreement that it's not something that's unreasonable and actually would benefit the town. So,
So I understand the town council has to make it, no question there. But this, because of this ordinance directly affecting our business, that's why we're here talking about it. as far as the public hearing goes, my understanding is even though we had a public hearing on this proposed language, we're well within our rights to make changes after. Yeah,
But we're
send
making
it,
changes to a different chapter.
well, it's all right here. The public hearing is right here under section 8.
Right. No, that was our public hearing we had in the past. That's the public, we already had a public hearing last meeting.
Mhm.
And we didn't discuss chapter 140-77 site plan review process. We just continued on with our meeting. We never had a discussion. You never had a discussion as a board. That's why it's on here right now. So what Brunel brought up about the formal public hearing at the end of a project for a butter notification is what you're looking to change or make a motion on to change. If you're going to do that, then you could do that,
Is that a different chapter?
yes.
Okay. I
And that
can-
means we start,
Yeah.
what we were just
Fair enough.
discussing,
Yeah.
as a group, you'll discuss it again. We'll set a public hearing date, we'll
Yeah.
have a public hearing, we'll discuss it at the public hearing.
Okay.
If it's voted on, we then send it to town council and they have a public
So the
hearing.
only thing we're talking about tonight is obviously the site plan review and the abutter notification. That's the only thing on the table.
Correct.
So I'm happy with the wording that's been submitted. If you want to talk about the public hearings. we need to
Yeah.
enter
That's a
into
separate discussion.
Yeah.
Hang on.
I see, I think if you look on the second page under number 8, that's where you're getting that number.
Item 7 is the notification. Item 7. 8 is the,
Could be, I could have given you the wrong number. Yeah.
that's what.
So really, all we're talking about now for the purposes of that public hearing is the abutter notification sentences that have been added.
And then we can vote on that, and if it's something that we want to talk about separately, we can start that discussion, but at
Well, this,
least,
why, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, at least we would have the part in where any applicant that comes from us moving forward is gonna have to notify butters. If we put this off, then we could have a subdivision that comes in like next week, and then like, well, we don't have to, it's not.
Exactly.
So by delaying the process, we may kind of be leaving the door open for,
Okay, didn't we, these 2 pages were discussed at the public hearing last meeting, right?
Yes. Just the change in language on chapter 140-77, just on site plan review process. It's the only language that was changed.
That's this.
I don't know. I don't know what that is. Do you have the one that has the red ink and the strikeouts? Which would show the changes that we made to the ordinance?
that's not the one I have.
So that's what we discussed the last planning board meeting, prior to the public hearing. You guys voted on it? Yes, we set the date for the public hearing. We had a public hearing last meeting. Nobody discussed anything. We didn't have any public comments. We had no board member comments. We didn't address it. That's why it's here now. All we have to do is say, okay, we addressed it. We didn't have any comments from the public. What we had decided upon was voted on. Okay, now it's time to move it to the town council. That's what we're discussing right now. If you're going to change the language that you already voted on, then we have to go back and do it all over again. I'm not that I don't want you to do that. I'm just saying, that's the process, the correct process forward. When it comes to the formal public hearing, that has nothing to do with what we're discussing right now. You could bring it up on a different matter, absolutely, as a planning board member, if you want that changed, but that is not the discussion we're having right now.
I think we just kind of decided that we were okay to move forward with that language as it is, but we definitely want to have a discussion about extending the. public
Absolutely.
hearing.
And if you want that to be added onto the agenda, you can
Let's- so
formally
Amy-
ask for that.
You can put it on the agenda for our next meeting.
Yep.
To talk about that.
Is it? No, Madam Chair, excuse me. That should be a motion.
Okay.
Yep.
Do I have a motion to put that on the agenda for our next meeting?
So moved.
So what is it that we're putting on the agenda?
That we are putting on the agenda, changing the public hearing notification from 10 days to 14 days.
Language change.
language change. Yep,
Second.
second, any discussion? Hearing none, Greg Zinser,
Yes.
Bill Cole,
Yes.
Renaud Bailey.
Yes.
Betsy Randall, yes.
Who seconded that?
Thank you. However, we have not had a motion to approve this language.
Does anybody have the red line version? I'm happy with the red line
So-
version. I just want to see it.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, it's right here. Yep.
Good.
And then into the public hearing.
Get it?
There's nothing to do.
Yeah, this is what we do. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, having heard the back and forth, I have a more clear understanding of
Yeah.
kind of what the notification is and what the process is, and people aren't really even, I think I'm pretty happy with that. I definitely don't want people to feel like they're getting kind of blindsided by stuff, so they have no, but they're not doing it at the same anyway, so.
Yeah.
I like that.
If we could have a printed, though, that'd be good, because my printer's broken, literally broken, so. understand. My only question is the 11/3/21. Is that, was that the final draft, or has it changed since then? Okay, so I would make a motion that we adopt the 11/23/21 draft as discussed for the site plan review, allowing for incorporating a butter notification, to be specific on that language right there.
Okay, I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna actually go in my office and do it, not do it on here. What you guys voted on 2 meetings ago was the final draft. And it was dated as of that date.
So what- okay, so
Yes,
that's-
and I did forward that all to you, and I also printed it at that meeting and gave it to you on this. So I don't mind going and printing that out right now, so you have it right now, but that's what you voted on to move to have as a document for the public hearing. Today, that document's not being changed. If it's not being changed, then you're voting to say, yes, this is what we decided on, no public comments, we're moving forward to sending it to town council for approval by town council. They will then have to hold a public hearing.
I just wanted to, we're on date.
Madam Chair, when you've done this, can I have that before?
Yes.
Not that I don't want to hang out with you
45 minutes.
people. but- Not that I don't wanna hang out with you people. You in all day tomorrow?
Oh, yeah,
I gotta,
going from one, coming to the next.
yeah. Hey, 4 needs
You
a
know how
day.
it goes, yeah.
I gotta ring your phone. I gotta file.
Sure. You myself, yeah.
Nothing major, but just I want your input on an idea that I work on down here. So I want the county in the loop.
Yep.
I don't know how long she's gonna take.
You wanna table what you're doing for a minute? Let me go ahead and speak, or I'll be about.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Oh, she's. Oh, Joe. Oh, Joe's got it.
I'll help you out. That's your original.
Oh, thank you. I keep every piece of paper.
Yeah, so here's a copy.
Thanks.
there you
Thanks, guy.
We're waiting on the other one. It has the current. date on it.
If everyone's okay with tabling this for the moment, I'll
Yeah.
give Tim the floor.
Works for me.
go.
You can get right into it. That should be there.
Yeah, I don't want to get
All
started.
right.
Might as well. She gonna be right back, Joe?
Find out.
Do 5 minutes.
I will be your music.
Yeah. Good silence. Stand by, folks. We'll be with you in a minute.
Two minutes.
Okay. 2 minutes. One of the things, Madam Chair, if I may, it's not kind of related directly to one, I do want to inform the board at the June 14th town council meeting, I'll be presenting a potential proposal to develop a downtown TIF district. It'll encompass, we haven't made the exact areas yet. It'll be a first proposal. I'll need their support to get started, but my vision is that we've got 18 years left on the other current TIF. And that we've looked at development and other practices down here, downtown district. So I'm going to be doing a presentation to the council to talk about possibility of TIFing the downtown. To do the TIF would be a funding formula for a downtown revitalization beautification project that would encompass everything from one bridge to the next and be like a 30-year or 25-year downtown revitalization. So just to let you know that's coming. So it's not a,
Tim, where are you gonna get the, where's the development coming from? Where's the main TIF and how?
Well-
Like, I always would call it like a main TIF and then the future TIF. You know,
So
so the development gonna come, the increment for the downtown.
well, we
What are you
hope,
thinking?
well, we're hoping two things. We're hoping, well, and it's not just limited to downtown yet.
Okay.
So the first thing is we have to update the TIF for Pumpkin Town. When we updated that, we would combine that with, that would be combined with the new TIF for the downtown district.
And I asked the question, what's a TIF district?
So, well, that's a whole different discussion, but what it's a tax increment financing in a nutshell, basically. It's tax incentive development process that helps attract businesses to town. And by its funding formula sets money aside to reinvest in that area in a nutshell. There's more to it than that, but. So I don't have 100% of that. But that's, where we want to go is in conjunction with the comprehensive plan update. Is a downtown revitalization plan to at least get started. Where that lines are actually drawn as of yet. I haven't got quite that far. There's a couple other pieces on economic development we need. But that's kind of where we're looking at. So just be aware, you're gonna start hearing that shortly. And that'll certainly, as we get more, I'll bring it back to the planning board, so you're aware, and you know what's going on. Thank you.
Disagree. It's a good one.
Well, the
Okay,
change of
so we
LD 2003,
Yeah, right.
yeah. I know.
Yeah.
So we're actually back to the original one that we were looking at. The one from November 17th. It's not, there's no red on it. So-
I gave you the red one.
Oh, did someone give me this one back? Okay, but this one is from, this one that we originally had, was amended 11/17/2021. So
I just haven't changed the date on it. This is the one. So this is the one that has changes on it. So you
Right,
can see where the changes are. This is the one without this is the one with the changes, but not read in the process.
right.
Yeah.
So then this is the one we were working off of.
Yes.
Originally tonight. So,
Only in the red is what we're talking about.
right, but this is what we're working off of. So I just want to make clear that we're only discussing what's in the red, and this is the final version that we were looking at earlier. So is there a motion to
Yeah,
approve?
what was the date of our last meeting? Today. Today's
420?
518.
Oh, 518.
So I would.
The
move-
date's gonna change. It's just.
Yeah, well, that's why I said the date would change, so, I would move that we adopt the changes to the site plan review ordinance incorporating the butter notification as discussed before us and presented on 5/18/2021.
I second that. Any discussion?
5/18/2022.
2022, yes, thank you.
Modified 2022. Any discussion? Hearing none, Greg Zinser,
Yes.
Bill Cole,
Yes.
Bernard Bailey, Betsy Randall, yes.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the planning board. I want to come in front of you tonight and give you some personnel changes and updates that I think you'll be pleased to hear and it'll help you out. So I want to remind you that Joe, he's not dead, he's just sleeping.
Right.
Joe has decided to retire after 128 years of service to the town. Well, And Joe will be leaving us in the end of July, so we started the process for a code enforcement officer. To replace him, we advertised, went through the whole process, got some 5 applications. In the process, I had a meeting with the town borough manager. And in that meeting, James had approached me about co-joining services with the town of Berwick by contract for both code enforcement and town planner. At first, I really wasn't jumping up and down about it. I had a lot of questions and concerns. So they used to do this years ago, correct? You used to be double code enforcement until you got to fire,
Right.
and then you took on fire and code. And since we haven't had a town planner for, what, a couple of years?
8 or 9 years.
8 or 9 years. Okay, so, so for you newer folks, the town planner is your guide and director of the planning board. They're the one who sits here and gets everything organized for you. They're your reference guide, much like I guide and help direct the town council. Greg guides and directs the county commissioners. Your planner is your guide and director from the staff. And they're the ones who takes care of procedures, takes care of policies, takes care of making sure you stay on track, everything's prepared, looking at applications for code, and they do all those things. So myself and the assistant town manager went over to Berwick, and we met with their staff and interviewed them. And I will tell you that when I walked away from the table, I was blown away by their knowledge, their interest, the ability to want to co-function together, save a few dollars on each side of the bridge for the towns. And I was absolutely blown away. So I came back, I talked to Amy about it and how it would work, and we looked at all the schedules and the cost savings. So the next step in the process was we talked to both of them about the scheduling and how that would work and the time commitment. And they both had excellent points. Planning board, on the planning board side, they meet on different nights. So as long as the planner's here for that day, they can work remotely, whether she works from home or she works from her office in Berwick or an office here. And on the code side, it works out that a lot of the contractors that are doing business in Berwick are also doing business in South Berwick. And again, she already covers for Joe when Joe's on vacation as it is. So we're very intrigued with this whole process, and we went forward and we had them come over and meet with Amy and Verna, the assessor, to see how that would go and answer our questions and their questions. And they did that. Once that was done, we sat with James and myself, sat down with the finance people, and we looked at how we would craft this project. So it turns out that we would take one on as an employee, they'll take the other one on, we'll do it by municipal share contract. We'd write a contract through the attorneys, both councils sign it, and we basically share planner and code enforcement officers 2.5 days a week, give or take. The schedule was not set in stone, it'd be floating, so it would work that way. So after we looked at all the pieces, it made 100% sense, and I was very impressed with the planner and the code enforcement officer. And I want to tell you a little bit more about the interview. So I want to introduce to you tonight, Jennifer McCabe is the code enforcement officer from Berwick, and Tammy Bellman is the planning director from Berwick. They'll be coming on as our staff to work with us and work with you to move the town forward. So Jennifer will be coming on as code enforcement. A little bit about Jennifer. She's been a certified code enforcement since 2019. Joe helped train her. She's very dynamic, is quick on her feet, wants to, she does a great job, and she was very impressive in the interview with the idea that she said, I liked what she said. She said, I set up all my inspections right off my phone. And she said that she works hand in hand with Tammy and will come to all the planning board meetings so that they give you the direct guidance you need for ordinances, rules, regulations, and laws. They will not let you stray, which is what we want in the town. We don't want to get in any legal issues. And telling you a little bit about Tammy. Tammy's been in planning for 8 years with different municipal governments in New York County. She currently is the planner for Berwick. She is a Robert's Rules of Order expert, but even knows more than I do. She brings her book with her to meetings. She will not let you stray off of that. The town planner's job is to provide administrative, technical support and direction to the planning board, provide meeting support through the Robert's Rules of Orders. Obviously, as you know, is adopted by the town and by the town charter and planning board bylaws, assist with research and make recommendations based on the facts and reference to the items on your agendas. She uniquely does training for planning boards and zoning board of appeals. So she would also give you on months when you have a slow agenda, Tammy will do trainings for you, keep your skills up and keep you along with the zoning board of appeals. But basically, Tammy would work with you folks to ensure that you're working within the scope and guidelines of the ordinances, regulations, and the codes to reduce any town's legal liability and to accomplish the work of the citizens of the town efficiently to help you guys out. She helps with the agendas. So Amy would be her partner along with Jen. So after we heard all sides of this, we talked again, we felt this was a good fit, that this will help you out greatly. Tammy, like I say, has got 8 years planning board experience and direction as a planning director. Jen's got 4 years as code. They worked closely with Joe. Joe was in on the process with us. And we all felt this is a win-win for the town. It'll be a win-win for the planning board. So we have finalized the contract. It'll be signed and executed on the next town council meeting, and Tammy will be your new planning director, will be coming on right around the 1st of July, and she will be your A team. Now, one of the things that I really got out of this meeting that I really liked, I was listening to Tammy tell me about how she communicates and works with the planning board, how closely she does that. And one of the things that really thrilled me is when Tammy said, I meet with the planning board, Amy, the code enforcement officer, and the planning board, the planning director, will meet with the planning board chairman every week to communicate and the agenda and any items that are changing and everything. And communication, as you know, is good. So I'm here to tell you that that's a personnel change. That's how we're going to move forward. I think it'll benefit you greatly. I think it'll benefit the town greatly. It's a win-win for both communities. And on top of that, we save about the savings of a full staff position and get 2 people for 1. So that's what I wanted to come here and inform you tonight. Tammy is on, Jen's on. Madam Chair, I would ask that you give them a minute to welcome them and say hi to the board.
Yes. Absolutely. I don't know, Jennifer, do you want to go first?
Hi guys, how are you?
Thank you.
And what would you like me to say?
Just tell them a little bit about you and how do you do your job? That's all.
All right. So I'm Jenny McCabe. I am the code enforcement officer for the town of Berwick. Little bit about me. I coach T-ball, and I have 7 children. So that's not forgettable usually. Yeah, so basically how we run business here in Berwick. When I took over, actually, it's funny, I kind of came in after Joe in Berwick too. There was somebody between us, but anyways, when we do business, we do permitting, I do all the inspections from Berwick. I am the licensed plumbing inspector for Berwick. I do all the violations. When we go to court, which we don't like to do, I am the one who represents town of Berwick with our town attorney, which is the same town attorney as South Berwick has. Love my job. Most of the time when you meet code enforcement officers, they do love their job. They have to. It's a lot. We're really, I can speak for Tammy and myself, but I'll speak for myself and just say that we're really, really excited to join the South Berwick team. I will be coming on to South Berwick as the employee. Tammy will be staying in Berwick. And that's really all I have. Anything else you want me to say? You want me to tell them? I'll tell you one more thing. Tammy and I both work really good together. Everything we do is black and white. So if there's any gray area with an applicant, there's not. So either the ordinance allows it or the ordinance doesn't. And that's where we come in.
You're welcome.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Thank you, Tammy.
Good evening. My name is Tammy Bellman. And as Tim said, I've got multiple years in different municipalities under my belt, working with planning, working with code, multiple code officers, deputies, the whole 9 yards. Robert's Rules, because I love puzzles. To me, Robert's Rules is fascinating. I know it makes me an odd duck, but some days I do quack. So planning to me, like Jenny said, is black and white. Either it's in your ordinance or it's not. You have a statement in your ordinance, whether or not you can do it or you can't. It's not, there's no gray areas when it comes to an ordinance. It's either black or white. I usually meet with the applicants in Berwick before they even approach the planning board, so that when they get to you with a sketch plan, they'll know it will at least pass code, whether or not it agrees with what the board is trying to do based on both the comp plan and the ordinance. That's where you come in and say, okay, we want you to change this. But I can get them to you with a complete application so that some of the questions that you had tonight about notifications can be readily alleviated. So my working with the applicant before they even get to you will make it, I'm hoping, a much smoother process. So that if there are questions, all you have to do is shoot me an email, pick up the phone, send a text. And when things have questions and I send out an email to the board, I'll send you a quick text that says, please check your email. I don't tell you what's in the email because it's for your eyes to review it, and then we can go from there. Do you have any questions for me? I'm so excited to be able to come on board and work with you folks.
Tammy, can you explain working with the chair and communicating with the board, how you explained to me getting ready for a meeting and getting their information to them and working with Amy on all that? Could you elaborate a little more on that, please?
Certainly. I put the agenda together now because unfortunately I don't have an Amy in Berwick. We're working on it, but I don't have one now. So Amy and I would sit down, put the agenda together. I would get all the information together with Amy's assistance to make sure that I would take and then email the chair or pick up the text and shoot him a text and say, could we meet today? Or could we meet tomorrow? Do you have a moment for a phone call? I take and go the extra step to make sure that the chair knows exactly what is coming before the board. If the chair has a concern, I try to alleviate that concern with that application and for the applicant before it gets to the board. You, as a planning board member, you look to your chair for guidance. Your chair is going to come to me for guidance. If I have a question and I can't answer it based on your ordinance, I will reach out to someone else that may be able to guide me in the correct direction. I'll have the ordinance with me at the meeting. I don't usually go anywhere without an ordinance in my hand, whether it be in Berwick or now in South Berwick. So my communication with the chair is extremely important. even if it's an hour before the meeting, if they want to change something or add something to the agenda. We can always do it at that point.
Good.
Great.
Welcome, Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
So they'll be starting at the latest, we hope, once we sign the contract, get the payroll stuff. At the earliest or latest, right around July 1st, so you'll have one more meeting, and then after that, she'll be on board. So I know, there are some changes in the board shifting, but this is a win-win, partly because it provided you guys something I thought was very valuably needed, was planning assistance. So now you're gonna have a whole team, not just Amy, not just Joe, but a whole team behind you. And they'll all communicate together and work with the board chair so that you're 100% prepared coming into your meetings. You'll have all your questions answered. And if you don't, you can just look at her and she should be able to get everything for you. We're gonna make Amy deputy code enforcement officer and a deputy planner, get her some training so she can move up in the system a little bit and help provide a better service during the days when the other folks are next door. However, as Tammy and Jen both said, just like Joe, if you have a question, you just call her or text her on her cell phone, or call her, email her, and she'll get back to you. So hopefully this is a step forward to help you be better organized, to be more efficient, do the business better, so that you don't spend a lot of time wasting other time. And it's a success for us because we're getting 2 employees for kind of the price of one. They're already trained, they already have systems and methods in place, and they already have a lot of experience. So they'll be a go-to. It's a win-win for the town of South Berwick and Berwick, both sides. And that's where we're at. So I wanted to present that to you tonight and let you know that that's a change in personnel.
Great, thank
So-
you so much, Tim. Thanks, Tim.
Tammy, thank you. Jen, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
One question from me
We'll see you all soon.
Hey.
for,
Sure.
what's this do to our relation with the Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission?
So I met with Dave and explained to Dave so that she's gonna be the lead because she's gonna be an employee. So your planners by statute will be the lead. She'll take all that other, she'll be here, some of what Dave did. Dave will still be here. He's here to us by contract. But we have a very limited budget. And we're using Dave for what he wasn't, he was being used more like a planner than he was a consultant. And he'll go back to being a consultant for that. He'll still be available to us. He'll work with Tammy. So now your team grows from 2 to 4, and you have all the consulting that we need. So, and again, for me, it was the fact that they understand that their goal is to help you move forward, get stuff, the business for the citizens done, and reduce the liability of town and be time efficient for you folks, because you have limited time. So, any questions?
I personally think it's a great idea. I'm happy to see an actual planner coming back on board. I think we need one, and I think separating out code enforcement from that is gonna be good. And I think having, Dave in the back as also a consultant to assist Tammy on the development, I think is a great idea. Gonna go a long way helping with the tip stuff too.
Any questions, Madam Chair? Anybody else?
Ooh, It's exciting.
So you will start to see some changes next. And I think everybody's looking forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Bye-bye.
Planning board policies and procedures, is there anything in particular?
Greg had asked that.
All I was really kind of wondering is, just reflecting on the past meeting, we had been, going through our review of the solar. And, we were pretty much done, and then kind of found out that night that we would be done, because the council wanted it back, fine, now it's in their court. The presentation seemed somewhat ill-timed, kind of surprised, didn't really find it overly helpful, and I'll be the one to say it. We're all busy, and so I'm just kind of curious, just kind of seemed to show up on us. And, you know, if it was a presentation, you know, it wasn't really more of a, well, I'm here to answer your questions. Well, if I had questions I'd ask. It was just, I'm just, wasn't really sure what was going on. So I'm just, my only thing that I was wondering about or curious about is how does something like that get on the agenda? You did answer the agenda. I think more in the future, it's more of a, you know, can there be some more communication on that instead of, you know, getting in and having a presentation that, in my view, personally, I didn't gather much from it. And it was like a half an hour, you know, and
It's very fair. That was something that just kind of was thrown at
yeah.
our feet, and going forward, we will make sure that never happens again. But we will make sure we see whatever that presentation is going to be prior to you seeing it.
And that's all, I'm not upset by it. It's just,
No.
you know, kind of like, where did it come from? We're done. So it's, if we were gonna have a presentation, would help to have it like 2 months ago. But,
Exactly.
you know, it was fine, but just somewhat awkwardly placed. So that's really all I was suggesting on talking about the process. It was really more about, stuff like that comes up. How does it get on? Can anybody just call up and say, hey, I want to make a presentation? I think there should come to the board. And the board to say, yes, we'd like to hear from you. And, you know, that's all I'm saying. I think more of a process for that.
I think specifically like where there was a lot of other discussion that needed to happen, and then there was a bunch of people that really probably didn't really care so much about hearing that, but they're kind of held captive because they're waiting to be able to like make their statements.
Sure.
You're kind of like, to your point, like the discussion was pretty much already had, and so it's pretty late in the game, and then
Yeah,
there's a lot of people that are investing their time here, and they're hearing about this presentation that really isn't gonna change anything.
at that point,
And, you know, they have to sit here for half an hour while they're just kind of waiting for it.
If I can, going forward, once July 1st gets here, it's a great date because that's also going to be the change amongst the board members here. And I know you guys have seen what I said gave to you here. There's a lot of information there, but that first meeting in July is going to be a pretty important meeting because we're going to be making a lot of decisions and appointing, if we are able to, the new board members in the seats. But at that point going forward, we're all going to be on the same page, and we're all going to be, I don't want to say taught or told, but we are going to be taught and
Be more
told
of a-
exactly, you know, the ordinance is the ordinance, and it's, you guys are gonna have to start reading the ordinances. If you don't know the ordinances and you don't know what's the process is, then you're gonna ask before a meeting, so we don't do it here at the meeting. But as long as you see what I wrote here, and we don't need to discuss it, as long as you know, Ken Conley did resign on May 18th. And Mamico was removed effective 5/24. And of course, it's sad news that Betsy Randall will be leaving us. Her last meeting will be next meeting on June 15th. We will not be making any decisions on June 15th. We won't do that till July 1st. Okay, so that you two can think about if you want to continue as an alternate, or if you want to move up as a planning board member, and then the dates and things here. One of the, no, it's not, I'm trying to say the process is, if you want to be a planning board member, you will need to contact the town clerk's office. I'm not gonna be somebody, where our office is not gonna continue to remind you. If you don't get sworn in, you don't get to be a planning board member. You know, that kind of stuff. Once that's all set, we'll have Joe for 2 meetings and possibly, right, Joe? Look at that face.
Three, but
So Amy, just to confirm
Yes.
here, you are putting me up for reappointment on 7/1 or whatever the first
Your
town
term,
council meeting is of the new year,
yeah, your term expired
right?
because you took over
yeah.
from, yeah, so if
So-
you want to continue,
You want me to notify the town clerk?
yes,
Okay,
yep. And then if on 7/1 we decide that,
Okay.
if these two decide that they want to be moved up from an alternate to planning board member, then they would need to speak to the town clerk's office as soon as possible.
After 7/1, or can we do it?
You know, that's a good point.
I would do it before.
Yeah, because then we couldn't make any votes on 7/1. So if the three of you could maybe send an email or something to, or call Barbara And if you do want to be, then you're already sworn in when we appoint you. That'd be wonderful. So between now and 7/1, if you can already be sworn in, then we'll vote you in and, right? And then on 7/1, we'll have to discuss what we're doing for chair, vice chair. I know you don't. You're right.
I have done 3 years.
You have been for 3 years.
My kid, like, it's weird to think, like, my kids were 3, I have a 5-year-old, 2 3-year-olds when I started, and now they're 8 and 6.
Yeah, right.
Crazy, yeah, we have baseball, we have karate, we have everything under the sun.
But it's gonna, going forward, it's gonna be pretty great.
Are there any member comments?
So you'd like us to go ahead and get sworn in? Just
Well, if you,
for information sake, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I would formally send a letter to the town clerk stating exactly that your term is up on this, or I'm sorry, I gotta look at you because I don't. That you would like to fill a seat, if you want to, from an alternate to a planning board member, and that it would be voted on by the planning board on 7/1. I would think he can be sworn in before then, right? Barbara, allow that?
I believe so, if the appointments are there, yes. I would say,
Okay.
she'd be able to tell you, she'll
So
let you know.
she would let you
She'll let you
know.
know. Just saying.
Just reach out to Barbara for me, and then if you want to copy me on those emails, that'd be great.
It's just kind of process what's gonna happen there. Can't be sworn in before being voted in. What happens to status on the first?
Well, and again, I believe the process is we have to go, the council appoints members to the boards, okay? So that's why I said, if you get a hold of her now, she'll be able to tell you what's gonna happen, because then she can present it to the council before the end of the month.
Yep.
So that way there, it's already done. I think that, because they only meet the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays. So like I said, I would check with her as soon as possible.
And I'll also check with her tomorrow, just to. Because if we have to add it to our next meeting, then we will. And then from that meeting to the first, you'd have time to get sworn. Does that sound good?
I'll stop by tomorrow.
Okay, sure. That sounds great. Thank you.
Send that in the email.
Okay.
Any other member comments? A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Great, awesome. Greg Sensor, Bill Cole, Renell Bailey, and Betsy Randall. Good night, everybody. We're out of here 8:20. This is a really good for us.
Orders.
What?
Could have bought 4 days.
I know.
We're here. What's going on?
What?
The items on the agenda for project review.
There's no review on those.
Oh,
No, there's no review. There's no review on any of the items that, no business currently. Or any item.
okay.
If we haven't received any new material from the applicants,
I
we
mean,
don't do anything.
well, I think Neil submitted stuff for the HL Patton project.
I didn't see anything.
Okay.
I didn't see anything to be put onto the agenda.
Yeah.
I'll say that. Did you, Joe?
5/4/22.
I think it missed the last, it was for the last, it missed the last meeting by a couple hours. So therefore,
I had,
This
not-
was presented, yeah. They
they
didn't
were,
make the last meeting.
they were here on
This is-
5/4. Is that what you're saying?
This was presented on 5/4.
And Neil
Right.
submitted things that were supposed to be, then after the 5/4, we were too late for that one. So we were supposed to be on this.
I had no confirmation or anything that you were to be on the agenda tonight. No, I don't know what to say other than that, Joe.
Can I ask you two procedural questions?
Yeah, I'll be on the sixth.
Ah, yes.
Okay, and my bad.
Neil submitted that, and provided information here because all the things, there was things asked that came up.
Yep.
Nope.
If we do, it'd be on the agenda.
Committee addressed that with the use.
Yeah, so if it's not on the agenda, it's not happening.
But if it's
So that
gonna
was
be
all
a
submitted
separate
to.
meeting, then.
the town.
This
It would still have to.
But this
have
was just the
our
additional
planning board
information.
information,
Right,
our
so here-
planning members to be notified,
I think he
which
sent it
means
in.
our,
Yeah, he
our
sent it
planning board
in
members have to be somewhere.
to
It's on an
them.
agenda.
This
And
is the other stuff
if-
that was, hasn't
This
changed.
is all
it's
of business, it's always gonna be there,
Yeah,
it's no longer.
That's all under that, yeah.
All right,
yeah,
that makes
that's-
more
that's
sense.
the
Thank
stuff.
you.
So I'm confused on why there's nothing, there was.
I don't see any of them in there. Any of these.